was always the black sheep of my family, and I didn't realize how far they would go until it was too late. Growing up, I was never the favorite. My parents never said it outright, but it was obvious. My older brother Mark could do no wrong. He was athletic, confident, and followed every rule they set. I was quieter. I liked books, kept to myself, and questioned things I was not supposed to question. No matter what I did, it was never enough. Family gatherings were always the same. Mark's accomplishments were praised. My choices were tolerated. If I spoke up, I was told I was being sensitive or dramatic. Over time, I learned it was easier to stay quiet. When I moved out in my early 20s, the distance helped. I kept contact minimal and told myself this was just how families worked. Not perfect, but manageable. Then my grandmother died. She was the only person who ever defended me. She listened when I spoke. She remembered my birthdays. Losing her felt like losing my last ally. After the funeral, my parents asked me to stay behind. They said they needed to discuss family matters. Mark stood in the doorway with his arms crossed, watching me like I did not belong there. That was when my father told me my grandmother had named me as a secondary executor of her estate. Not the primary one. Just enough authority to ask questions. The room went quiet. Mark's face changed immediately. My mother smiled, but it was forced. They told me it was just a formality, nothing to worry about. But I could feel the shift. For the first time, I had something they did not control. Over the next few weeks, everyone suddenly wanted to be close to me. My parents called daily. Mark offered to help me manage paperwork. Relatives I barely knew invited me over. It felt wrong. Then I found a letter my grandmother had hidden inside one of her old books. It was addressed to me. In it, she apologized for not protecting me more. She said the family had made decisions behind my back for years. Financial decisions. Legal ones. Decisions that benefited them and left me with nothing. She ended with one sentence that made my hand shake. They will do anything to keep you quiet once you start asking questions. That was the moment everything changed. The more I looked into my grandmother's estate, the more uncomfortable my family became. Whenever I asked for documents, my father stalled. When I requested bank statements, my mother insisted they were already reviewed. Mark suddenly became aggressive, accusing me of trying to cause problems. I started noticing patterns. Money moved between accounts in ways that made no sense. Property transfers that never involved my grandmother's signature. Loans taken out in her name during years when her health was failing. When I brought this up, my parents told me I was misinterpreting things. They said grief was making me paranoid. Then Mark pulled me aside. He told me I needed to stop digging. He said the family had protected me my whole life and that I owed them loyalty. He warned me that if I kept pushing, things would get ugly. That was when I realized this was not just about money. A few days later, I received a notice from a lawyer stating that I was being removed as executor due to concerns about my mental stability. According to the document, my family claimed I was emotionally unstable and acting irrationally. They were trying to discredit me. I confronted my parents. They denied everything. They said Mark had misunderstood. They said they were worried about me and only wanted what was best. I stopped trusting any of them. I made copies of everything. Documents, emails, old messages from my grandmother. I started keeping records of every conversation. Then I found something that changed everything. A transfer of ownership on my grandmother's house, dated 2 years before her death. Signed by my father. Witnessed by Mark. My grandmother had been bedridden at the time. They had stolen from her. And now they were trying to bury me with her. I did not confront them right away. Instead, I waited. I let them believe their plan was working. I acted confused. I apologized. I told them I was overwhelmed and needed time. Slowly, they relaxed. That was their mistake. Using the documents I had gathered, I contacted an independent attorney. He confirmed what I already suspected. What my family had done was not just unethical. It was criminal. Forgery. Fraud. Abuse of power. I asked him what would happen if I reported it. He told me it would tear my family apart. I told him to proceed. The fallout was immediate. My parents were served papers first. Mark was next. Phones exploded with messages accusing me of betrayal. My mother cried and begged me to stop. My father threatened to cut me off completely. Mark showed up at my apartment one night, furious. He said I was destroying the family. He said I was selfish, ungrateful, and vindictive. I told him I learned from the best. Weeks later, the investigation went public. Bank accounts were frozen. Properties were flagged. My parents were forced to answer questions they had avoided for decades. Family members stopped calling. The silence was loud. For the first time in my life, no one was telling me to stay quiet. In the end, the truth came out. My parents reached a settlement to avoid criminal charges. Mark lost his job when the investigation surfaced. The family reputation they worked so hard to protect collapsed overnight. They blamed me for everything. But something unexpected happened. Extended relatives reached out quietly. Some apologized. Others admitted they always suspected. Something was wrong, but were too afraid to speak up. I inherited my grandmother's house legally, the one place I ever felt safe. I moved in and kept her letter framed on the wall. My parents no longer speak to me. Mark pretends I do not exist, and that is fine. For the first time, I am not the black sheep. I am the one who told the truth. I used to think revenge meant destruction. Now I understand it is something quieter. It is reclaiming what was taken. It is refusing to stay silent. And it is finally choosing yourself when no one else ever did. Thanks for listening. Check out my channel for more stories like this. Midnight Tea Stories.